Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns cannot play on the same court together at the same time. If that can't work, you have to trade one of them. And it's not going to be Jalen Brunson. It's going to be Karl Anthony Towns because he's getting paid $52.5 million, and he's getting overpaid because he's not a winner. He's never going to be a winner. Yeah, Knicks fans got to understand that. And for the fact that Jalen Brunson came out and said that this roster can win a championship, he's lying to you, because there were stories coming out that a lot of these players did not get along with Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Joba, did you see that came out, almost immediately? Like it was like a canned story, just waiting for it to happen in The Athletic. And then they just added a paragraph on, and then the Knicks lost in Game 6. Like, they were ready to do the hit piece on Towns. You see any of that?
Yeah, I read, and I've seen scuttlebutt about it, obviously, just on social, and then obviously articles. But I think it's 100% right, because there was kind of a, I don't know if it was a battle, like who's the BMOC, the big man on campus. You know what I'm saying? You always have those type of personalities where sometimes it can work together, sometimes it doesn't. And I just think they're two completely different stars in their capacity, where sometimes they just don't work, and we kind of seen it. And I think that's a huge part of it too. And especially, if they're making a point to write an article about it, there's obviously, you hear it once, you're like, eh. Then you hear it a couple times, and then it keeps going. Then you're like, well, there must be some type of truth to it. Obviously, we're not in the locker room. We don't see it, but you can kind of see it out on the court. Like, obviously, they're both still getting their shots. They're still, doing the that they have done in their career. But I just think, with what he does in the type of team that it is, especially if the articles were already created and now they're continuing to get legs.
Joba, we've seen this before.
Yeah,
you played with two players that were best friends and hated each other after one got traded over there, and that's Alex Rodriguez and Derek Jeter. And there's no excuses, because they had to figure out how to play together. Obviously,
it wasn't as bad as everybody said it was.
I'm sure it wasn't.
It wasn't. But that's what happens when you get to the pinnacle and you have all of these alphas, and it's like, okay, I was a stud, now I'm a stud, now I'm a stud, now I'm a stud, and you get all of them. It was at one point in, I think, when Kerry Wood came over in 2010, I think over half of our starting roster was first-round draft picks. So you got all these guys that have had created a great legacy for themselves, whether individually, whether team, all the other stuff. And you get all of them. It's kind of, it becomes a pissing contest a little bit, where it's like you're going like, okay, well, if he did this, I can do this, and if they did this, I can do this. And we've seen it on every platform, from basketball to football and whatever. And it's like, the ones that become very, very successful and create legacies is they figure out a way. It's like, I may not invite you to my son's birthday party, but I damn sure want you next to me on the field or on the court.
Like, you want to be cool with the guys, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Like, you could, I watched the roommates podcast about when they had Julius Randle on, and they seemed like they were pretty chill with each other. Like, it was like a thing where they didn't have any animosity. Maybe they didn't play all that well together, but they had the chemistry. There's no chemistry with Karl Anthony Towns. You could see it. It doesn't work. And I think I have a trade for you, Earl. I have the trade.
Well, let's
you want to hear it? So I thought about this a lot. We talked about some of this the other day. But you're trading Towns, and you have to trade OG Anunoby with Towns. It's going to be a lot of money, so you have to take back some shit contracts. But I think the two of them together, maybe you throw in a pick, and you get Giannis Antetokounmpo and the two shittiest contracts on the Bucks, Kuzma and Pat Connaughton.
I like Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma's
nobody else in the league likes Kuzma, so you'd be the only one.
I don't know why.
He's one of the worst. He's one of the worst PERs in all of basketball.
He's still a good rebounder, and you're going to need that against an athletic team like the Pacers.
He's making $22 million a year to be a backup forward.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with a lot of people that watch Kyle Kuzma, and they're going to not give him the credit that he deserves. Remember, he was drafted by the Nets. Remember that? He was drafted by the Nets, and then he moved around. Yes.
I thought he was with the Lakers. I only remember the Lakers.
He was drafted by the Nets, if I'm not mistaken. Speedy, he was drafted by the Nets, right?
It might be some draft right thing.
No, it was Kyle Kuzma. He was drafted by the Nets, and then check it out. I know Kyle Kuzma was definitely drafted by the Nets, and then he was a journeyman. But he went to the Lakers. He really developed his game.
Yeah, you're right. Immediately traded to the Lakers in the legendary Timofey Mozgov and D'Angelo Russell trade.
That's right.
I have a lot of respect for guys like Kyle Kuzma because he hasn't played on rosters and teams that were really that good. Even that Lakers team that he played with wasn't really that good. Washington sucked everywhere he's gone. The Nets, he wasn't there that long, but you know what I'm saying? He's been on bad rosters. He's never played on a good roster where he has a game where he could put his game and play his game on that roster.
Well, how do you explain the Bucks then? Like, because he's on the Bucks and he can't get playing time because he sucks.
He really didn't play until the second half of that season anyways. So he didn't really have a lot of basketball time over there with Giannis and
if the Knicks get him in a deal like that, I'd be stoked if he was just, like not
Kyle
playing
Kuzma's
well.
a good rebounder for his size. He really is. I think you're underrating the type of player that
I think $22 million a year for three years of him is a little steep, and they're going to want to get off that contract though. I would say half that for him would probably be about right. But
I will say this for all you Knicks fans, and I know a lot of Knicks fans are upset about this. I was wearing a Knicks hat and a Knicks jersey the other day. All right, yesterday, and I was telling Fish and I was telling Speedy how many people came up to me and told me, "Oh, tough loss. Tough. What do you think?" and asking me questions. I actually were giving out show cards where some of these kids thought I was like a celebrity or something like that. Oh my God! Oh, are you gonna do? Are you gonna? I was like, what the hell's going on with you? Are you gonna have a heart attack? Or but see, these kids don't understand that they're just Jalen Brunson fans and they're Karl Anthony Towns fans, and they thought, hey, the Knicks choked and this and that. The Knicks didn't choke. They didn't play their game, and they lost that series in game number 1, letting this team come back up 14 with 2 minutes left. That was the choke that really cost them this series. If they won that game, they would have went up 2-2. They would have went back home, and it would have been 2-2. They would have went back home, won that game. They would have been up 3-2, lost in Indiana, and then went home and possibly won in Game 7 like I predicted. But losing that first game cost the Knicks the series, and that was mistakes by Josh Hart. That was mistakes by Karl Anthony Towns not hitting free throws and OG Anunoby missing free throws. All these guys couldn't hit a free throw if their life depended on it in game number 6. How many did Karl Anthony Towns miss?
10, yeah.
He was horrible.
It was terrible. It was terrible at foul shooting.
You're a career 92% in the playoffs free throw shooter, and you missed 4 free throws in an important game 6. And
but his knee was hurting.
Here's another thing. I want to give a shout out to our boy over here. He's been speaking a lot, Carl over here, saying that Karl Anthony Towns was getting fouled a lot in this game and throughout this series. I've got news for you guys. The refs were not on the Knicks side in this series. And I'm not blaming the refs. This isn't the refs'
You're
fault.
not the beef.
It's not the referees, okay? Here's the facts. It didn't go the Knicks' way. It doesn't matter if it was in Indiana or if it was in Madison Square Garden. A lot of the calls, and everybody's going to say, well, the Knicks had more free throws than the Pacers. But the Pacers got the important free throw chances at the end of games that kept them in the game when they were down or up a significant amount of points. So it was a big problem. And I think, again, the NBA or the LJA need to figure out how. I think there should be another referee on the court. It shouldn't be 3. I think there should be 5 referees on the court seeing everything go on. And you should be able to challenge at least 3 times in a game. 3 times. Not if you get one call. You should be able to challenge 3 times, because you saw in this series, after you use your 2 challenges early in the game, you don't get one in the 4th. And even if you see it go off another team or another foot or another, finger, you can't get a chance to call. And the referees, they don't really call a timeout to look at every single call at the end of the game, which could cost the team a chance to get the ball back and tie the game. It was a big problem in this series. There are a lot of mistakes, but Rick Carlisle is the better coach. That is why the younger, faster, and more athletic Pacers team beat a better Knicks team. The Knicks were more talented, I believe, when it comes to 1 to 5. But the Pacers, what they did against the Knicks is they shut down the offense of Jalen Brunson. He made the other guys try to beat him, and the other guys couldn't do it. And they got tired. If you saw in Game 5 and Game 6, the Knicks were much more tired. And everybody's going to say, well, the Knicks won by 16 or 15 in game number 5. The Pacers were not working really hard in the fourth quarter. They let the Knicks run away because they wanted to win it in Indiana. And the Knicks had a chance to.
I don't buy that.
I do.
They kicked their ass in game 5. They were winning by double digits the whole way.
The Pacers look like they stepped away in the fourth quarter and let the Knicks hit shots.
I think that energy of Madison Square Garden that Tyrese Halliburton was making fun of got to those guys, because I think those guys can be shook. And I don't really, we're going to talk about them going into the next round in the next segment in a second. Yes. But before we get off that, I wanted to tell you, why I think they should move OG, because I don't think they should move Mikal. It's really one of those two guys that would have to be included in the deal. And Giannis, look, the Spurs and the Rockets have a lot more to offer the Bucks than the Knicks do. But the Knicks might have the advantages. Giannis might want to go to a place where there's Greek people. I don't know if there are Greek towns in San Antonio and Houston. I know there are lots of Greek people in New York. I know I was driving by a Greek festival
recently. His brother
recently.
played in New York. That's one. And number two, his brother has a condo still here in New York. So
anything that pushes it towards it, I'd love it. So here's the reason why you use OG instead. You use OG instead because Mikal Bridges plays every single game, and OG is an injury risk like you wouldn't believe. And you have to get rid of the injury risk if they're going to be around the same price, because Mikal's going to get an extension around the same price. Now, if they don't bite on that and Giannis goes somewhere where they can get bigger return from Milwaukee, I can't believe. We got a new intern. Zach has been reading my mind. That's the second time. Kevin Durant for Cat straight up.
Too much.
Actually,
too much.
I don't think so, because here's the deal. Durant only has 1 year left after that.
He's 38 years old or 37 years old.
Listen, it's for 1 year. It's for 1 year. But you get off of a contract that Towns is going to be making. He has 4 years left, 3 plus a player option. That last year is $65 million. If you're paying Towns in 4 years with the way he is now defensively, $65 million, that is danger zone Kenny Loggins type shit, Errol.